Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. In this video today, we're going to be discussing the future of U.S. visa processing at U.S. embassies and consulates abroad. I've discussed this in the context of other matters, but I wanted to make a specific video on this because I think it's important for folks to understand what we may be looking at moving forward. There's a recent blog post from a colleague of mine named Stephen Pattison. The post is dated November 14, 2017. Mr. Pattison is also a fellow immigration attorney. He's also a former consular officer, foreign service officer, who dealt with visa processing at various embassies and consulates outside the United States. So to quote directly from his recent blog post, sounding the alarm on State Department staffing, which can be found at www.thinkimmigration.org, and the title again is Sounding the Alarm on State Department Staffing. To quote him directly, the president of the American Foreign Service Association, Ambassador Barbara Stevenson, has sounded the alarm over what she describes as an effort by the Trump administration to weaken the Department of State by slashing staffing, leaving senior management positions unfilled, and freezing hiring for new entry-level officers. This will severely undermine state's ability to represent America's interests. Is it any wonder, as Ambassador Stevenson points out, that in 2017 only about 8,000 individuals took the challenging foreign service exam, less than half the number, parentheses, more than 17,000, who took the same exam in 2016. I want to stop this quote here and really point that out. So in 2017, 8,000 people took the foreign service exam. In 2016, 17,000 took the exam. We're not talking about hirings. We're talking about who took the exam to be hired. Okay? Quoting further, if we are honest with ourselves, we should respect and admire the work that visa officers and managers perform under difficult and sometimes dangerous high-stress conditions. We may not always agree with the visa decisions consuls reach, but most of us would prefer those decisions to be made by highly talented, intelligent, and dedicated foreign service officers than by anyone else. I would tend to agree with those sentiments. Quoting further, that's why Ambassador Stevenson's column should set us off on all kinds of alarm bells for us. As she points out, the ability of DOS to carry out one of its core objectives, administering the visa process, is being fundamentally weakened by the administration's effort to reduce the agency's staff, importance, and influence. Quoting further, the evisceration of the agency in the name of greater operational efficiency will not achieve that goal. In fact, when it comes to the visa function, it will have the opposite effect. Make no mistake about it, our clients will suffer from a diminished Department of State. This is already happening. Fewer newer officers to adjudicate visas means longer waits for visas appointments. Fewer skilled consular managers means less oversight and more cursory adjudications by vice consuls who may feel empowered to play a law enforcement role rather than the administrative and diplomatic one. Vacancies in top management positions in Foggy Bottom mean that visa policy discussions and decisions in Washington will be dominated by those in other agencies who believe that U.S. interests are not served by facilitating legitimate travel, but by restricting it. Now, some of this gentleman's comments, I don't know that I totally agree with. For example, will it overnight become sort of will there be a change in paradigm to a sort of dogmatic law enforcement approach to visa processing? I can see it happening in a longer term, sort of context, but if that's going to happen tomorrow, I don't think that's probable. But that being said, a lot of good points are raised in this. Most notably, as I pointed out, half the people who took the foreign service exam, it's half the number that it was last year of people who took the foreign service exam. Meanwhile, and this was something I brought up when I started discussing things like Trump's extreme vetting protocols and some of these new policies being instituted, I got some, I won't say flack, but let's say negative feedback from some commentators on the internet who basically said, well, what does that have to do with you? You're just bringing this up to be kind of, I think that at root the criticism was kind of based on it was a bit sensationalistic to even bring it up. My point at the time which remains my point at the time of this filming, is these policies don't occur in a vacuum. And what some of these policies become very broad, and they become sort of baked in, if you will, into the institutional hierarchy and the administrative processing functions of these agencies. So these policies that have been instituted by Trump that are ostensibly for things along the southern border or ostensibly involving countries in the Middle East can have a broad impact, is what I'm trying to say. And they clearly are. This, the Trump administration does not, let's just say, they don't place a priority on filling vacancies within the State Department, or at least they do not seem to as of the time of this filming. Whether that is right or wrong is not for discussion in this video. It simply is what it is. I'm simply here to provide a video to provide some insight into how this can probably impact future visa applications and visa processing. And I think that one of the most succinct things to take away from this video is the following. I think it's the visa application process, if things continue the way they are with respect to resources and staffing, I think it is fairly safe to say that you're going to see future delays in how visas are processed at U.S. embassies and consulates abroad. That there is no blame on anyone working inside of these facilities for this. It's simply, it's a fact. If fewer resources are allocated for visa processing or adjudication of visa applications, it stands to reason that fewer such cases are going to get processed through. It seems to me logical to infer that a backlog of visa applications is going to be forthcoming. So the thing to take away from this video is those who are thinking about imminently doing their visa application, maybe make it more imminent. Maybe it's time to seriously think about moving up that timetable. Again, I'm not saying that tomorrow all of this is going to radically change, but I think 2-3 years down the road, which you'd be surprised in the immigration world, 2 or 3 years, you know, it can move fairly quickly. I think we could see not a sea change, but I think there could be some fundamental differences between the U.S. visa process as it sits right now and the U.S. visa process as it will sit in a few years.